You'd covered, Margaret?
The biggest news story I think I ever covered, well, that was a big one for radio, but for television was when Harold Holt disappeared, and I'd been working at the ABC for about a month, I think, at that time, or 2 months. Somebody found a jacket and a shirt and put it on me, and I'd never sat in front of a television camera in my life. The Prime Minister's disappeared, I said. Where am I, you know?
And Roger, what about you? Has one stood out for you?
I think probably the landing on the moon. It was the most incredible day I've ever experienced, I think, because for the first time before or since, in my opinion, the whole world seemed to be on the same side. Everybody. And I remember particularly, I also had the pleasure that day of hosting the actual launch for the Channel 7 network from here. And about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was on air, and I suddenly saw everybody in the control room had got cups of coffee. And I hadn't got a cup of coffee. So I was on air, so I just said, what does one have to do here to get a cup of coffee? Within about 5 seconds, I got a cup of coffee. But, meantime, this enormous truck pulls up into Channel 7. The fellow gets out, a Nestle's truck, gets out the back, staggers into the studios with this great big box, and said to the receptionist, would you please make sure that Roger Clemson gets that? He wants a cup of coffee.
Doing Sunrise, we know all about technical hitches. Live television, auto cues don't work, satellite feeds don't work, anything like that. Roger, are there any sort of glitches that you remember? What about when the Pope arrived?
Yes, Pope Paul VI it was, came to Sydney in the late 1960s, and there was complete chaos when he arrived, the day that he arrived. And the very first thing that he did was go across Sydney Harbour on a ferry to open a new building at Manly. I introduced the news by saying, ladies and gentlemen, His Holiness the Pope is here, of course, as you know. And the first thing he did this morning was go across Sydney Harbour on a ferry to open the building. Up comes the footage of the Pope going across Sydney Harbour on the ferry, all fine. There was only one thing wrong. He was going across Sydney Harbour upside down and backwards.
It was a miracle.
Well,